Raz, dva. Tak já už teda mluvím, prej. Aha. So I should speak in English now. One, two, three.
Hey everyone, so after dinner our next talk will be from Radek Švarz about blind signing. Enjoy.
Well, that was a short intro. Hi. How was the dinner? I really enjoyed it actually. Are there still some people down there, or is everyone up here? Or anyone from behind? Okay, let's start. How much time do we have? Co? 30, ne? Okay, so 30 minutes. We'll make it quick. Okay, so this shorter presentation will be about blind signing. And I think that most of us have experienced that. So let's just go into that. A little bit about me. I worked in IT for quite some time, especially in banking finance. I used to work there. Currently focusing on the Czech stablecoin think tank, on the next generation banking in decentralized manner, the Opus Finance, on the developments meetup, which is the regular meetup in Prague, and crypto foundation, which tackles the issue of the bridging the crypto world and the regular NGOs world in Czech Republic, and decentralized science, specifically focusing on the Alzheimer issues. So let's take into the blind signing. I wonder how many people over here use actually which hardware device. I assume that everyone over here is using at least some hardware device as their signing device, so-called hardware wallet. So let's start with the, I don't know, Trezor. How many people are using Trezor as their main hardware signing device? 3. Wow. Ledger. That's quite a lot. Good. Keystone. None. Any other hardware device which you are not aware of? 1. Good. Or was it a Keystone one? Okay, so this is fairly like a ledger community over here. I think that's quite relevant to what we are doing actually, that when we want to interact with the DeFi, the ledger might be a little bit more focusing on that than the Trezor devices. In fact, when we did a similar research in Ethereum Amsterdam on the OG console, there was like half was the ledger and the Trezor, and only one person there had a keystone. And the keystone has the biggest display to actually show what the Sourceify is providing and so on. Let's talk now a little bit more about the bind signing and think about more from the helicopter view. When we have a user, like the lady over here, she has some intention to do something with the DeFi application, and at the end, she has to commit, meaning sign the transaction, which is basically the commitment of her intention, what she wants to do. We can say that it's, if you remember this abbreviation, WYSIWYG abbreviation, we used that a lot in the 90s. We could rephrase it now as what you sign is what you get. That's literally now happening, right? What you sign is what you get. By signing the transaction, if we would use some sort of almost like a legal language, we could say that by signing the transaction, user expressly acknowledges and agrees that she understands what she is signing, right? This is the purpose of the signing. If you have a paper contract, the purpose of the signing is that you really literally understand what you are signing and what you are committing to. That's what we respect also on the signing devices, so-called hardware wallets or even software wallets. Can you imagine your friends and your family to understand, to sign, and ask them to acknowledge that they understand what they are signing? This is what we are experiencing now with, in fact, almost any DeFi contract. The only exception is when we do simple transfer or simple approve. In that case, yes, indeed, the hardware wallets are actually showing us that we are signing the transaction, doing the transfer of some assets, or approval, but nothing else. And our contracts are becoming more and more complicated, especially from the invocation point of view. So if we a little bit enlarge this scheme, this architecture of the flow, user flow, from the intention towards the commitment by the signature, we can see that the user has to interact on those several places to actually perform the transaction. The user goes to some particular domain. She can find it on the web or on the web search, or she can just type it there. She interacts with the app, with the front end, and then she interacts with the software wallet, like the MetaMask, for instance, basically some signing and the tool which broadcasts the transaction after all. And then she interacts with the hardware wallet. And the broadcasted thing, actually, the broadcasted transaction initiates the execution of the contract. So all those 4 points in those brackets, that's the question whether the user can trust those. Let's assume that she trusts the hardware wallet because it's like physically detached from the computer and so on, but can she trust these 4? The domain, can she trust the front end? Can she trust the MetaMask? Can she trust the contract? Is she even capable of trusting that? I doubt that, honestly. Even worse, we have several attack vectors on these particular pieces of that flow and of what she needs to interact with. If we think about the domain, we have like DNS hijacking. Yes, even by the stupid manners that someone from the, was it Namecheap? Namecheap support, it just gave credentials to some hacker, so the domain could be hijacked at that time. and misused, and the person directed somewhere else. Lookalike domain. I don't know if you're aware of. We have like Greece characters, which are very similar to the Latin characters. By naked eye, you just cannot really recognize the differences, and yet the hacks are there. BGP hijacking, that's like taking over the network traffic, routing the people somewhere else. That's a very dangerous one. Of course, a SEO placement SEO placement, the search engine that you put your scam site above the regular one. Social networks impersonation, that's quite typical one. We know a lot from telegrams and so on. On the front end, on the web side, we have things like malicious JavaScript injections, either from some comments field or from Google Tag Manager and the other places. Typical are the lookalike sites, which just behave similarly to the regular one. Scam projects, hacked web server, someone hacked into your web server, malicious packages, because many front-end engineers are just, I would sometimes even call it lazy, just, import and do not think about the internals of those packages. And then on the MetaMask, there were several occasions of lookalike extensions, the hacked MetaMasks, spoofing, trying some social engineering on the people to get their seed phrases, clipboard hacking, and of course on the contract side we have like phishing contracts and so on. Basically, the ultimate goal of the attacker is steal assets, right? But what it means more concretely, it means that they have some effects, and one of the effects is like either to route the assets of the user somewhere else than what was intended, or initiate transactions towards different forged contract, that's quite common case, or get approvers or allowances to steal something later. That's quite also common. So those three effects are quite common. Regarding the examples, Cyberswap, about 265K USD. There was a malicious JavaScript injection that was done through the Google Tag Manager. Just received the JavaScript which changed or introduced the allowance into the transaction. So the person actually allowed the hacker to withdraw the assets. So even though the user was thinking she's safe because she was signing by the hardware device, she actually signed wrong transaction because she could not understand what she's signing, right? Curve, 612K USD. There was a DNS hijacking on a protocol one subdomain, I believe. They created a localized site, directed the users there, and on the localized site they directed the people onto the phishing contract. The effect was that actually there was a forged contract and forged allowance to withdraw the assets. ClaySwap, almost 1.5 million USD. This one was very well engineered, I would say, because they used the BGP hijacking, meaning routing the network traffic somewhere else for part of the world. The way where it was routed to, there was injected again some malicious JavaScript. At the end, the user was signing the forged contract and forged allowance, 1.5 million USD. So those are a few examples. There are many more throughout the year. And the question is whether we can improve it. If we want more massive adoption of the DeFi and using Web3 and so on, we need to improve on that. What can we do? If you think about those attack vectors and those effects, we can improve by better or enabling the user to review and compare her intention to effects. So pre-transaction, post-transaction, to actually review it before the transaction is signed. That's one way on how to improve. Or we can address some malignant effects. We can put there some means and techniques to actually avoid some of those technical effects. Or we can integrate existing or make new tools to address some of those attack vectors. If you think what happened before, those attacks were not done only on one particular attack vector. They typically had to use like several of these attack vectors to achieve desired effect. So if there is a way to actually address some of these attack vectors or fields, we will at least lower the chances for the hackers to actually, or scammers to do their work. So those are, let's say, three options. I do not think that we will be able to resolve soon, as the industry, to resolve soon the overall signing problem. Would have to be made or given a lot of effort into changing the way the hardware wallets are signing or presenting the information to the user. The same would apply to software wallets like MetaMasks and the mobile wallets as well. So we can go step by step, at least address some of these things. So that's for the intro, that's for this hackathon this weekend. If you think about these situations, attack vectors and impacts, I think this weekend we could address some of these and at least help it a little bit. So thanks for the attention. I do have one more announcement to make before I finish. And that's it. 3 days ago, after several months, we were able to make that the CZK FX rate is finally on the testnet available. Thank you.
We have room for a few questions, if there are any. You can raise your hand, please.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. I just wanted to ask if you think that account abstraction can solve the problem with not knowing what we are signing, basically. Can you hear me?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, if you think that account abstraction can solve the problem with that we don't really know what we are signing, or if it can like lower the amount of these difficult spots, let's say.
Well, those particular spots will not definitely solve the blindsided. It's quite versa. While we are in this situation of the blindsiding, right, which will still happen in, let's say, upcoming few, I would even say not months, but even years, then we need to help the user somehow, at least, to do something. And there is one more thing regarding blindsiding. I don't know if you have some of your friends or families. I do know people who just blindly sign even something which would just shout into their face, "This is scam." So I think we need to apply it anyway, even if the blind signing issue is not here.
Yeah, sure. I was just asking if you think that account abstraction could solve it better.
I do remember many EAPs which are there regarding account abstraction. There's like a long list. I think that it might be like many people trusted that or believe that multi-sig will help in that. and the result is that they just help partially. And I think that will be a similar case for the account abstraction. We still do not know what will be the really like killer use cases of that, which will get the traction, right? For I mean, of the account abstraction, and ultimately we can go still back over here to this definition that at a certain moment we will ask the user to confirm that the user wants to execute her intention. And that will be the moment of the signing, and the account abstraction could bring like secondary signing or secondary checks or something. Will it be enough? I don't know.
Thank you.
Hi, great presentation, and really thanks a lot for talking about this. It's a topic that's really close to me as well. So something that's more for the audience here. So tomorrow, 11:30 a.m., I'm speaking about exactly this, how you can, there are a couple of ways how you can solve this. And everyone, you're welcome to join. It's called Do Not Sign Gibberish. So it's exactly what you're talking about. It's one of the biggest threats to DeFi. That's it.
Do we have any more questions? Yeah.
Radku, how do you sign transactions?
I do use the hardware wallets. For some specific transactions, we do have a multisig. And regarding of knowing what I am signing is, actually I wanted to do here some more questions on this, on these 4 fields. So that was a good question. How many people check the certificate of the domain and the certificate tree of the domain on which they are interacting with? Yeah, we are like 4 or 5, right? So that's one of the checks, which is quite easy one. How many people check the source code of the debt for the finance? Sometimes a little bit, yeah, just a few. Yeah. How many people check whether the MetaMask was actually downloaded properly at the moment from that extension store, that it was not like a, you know, skimming MetaMask instance somewhere else, when they are actually installing the MetaMask either for them or for their friends? Again, a few. Yeah? And how many people are actually literally reading the contract before they interact with the contract? Again, several. So, yeah, we have these steps.
Do we have any more questions? Okay, if not, thank you for the presentation, Radek.